Hey guys, welcome. In this video, we're going to be talking about body positivity and the health connections of it. So, first, let's start out with something pretty simple, the introduction. So, um, I know that when most people think about body positivity, they have like one of two pictures in their minds. Either the I weigh like 200 kilograms, and if anyone says that I should be thinner or that I should like lose some weight, then they are absolutely fat phobic, and that's not acceptable, and that's like infringing on their human rights. And the other extreme, where people are like, if you weigh over 50 kilograms, you are not worth anything as a human being, and you should just go die. So, in this video, we're going to be neither of those because, as with many other cases, the truth lies somewhere in the middle. So, in today's world, thinner is generally always better. There are some exceptions, obviously, and you're still expected to have like breasts and an ass and shit like that, but like thinner is generally always better. And but I'm not going to be discussing more like masculine sides of this issue because I have not grown up as a boy and I generally have no idea about that. I do want to emphasize that this is not a gender based issue, it is a societal issue. And everyone, no matter their gender and no matter like their situation, pretty much everyone is suffering from our current beauty expectations. So my bodily situation over here is obviously like I am not fat or overweight by any means, but I'm not the thinnest. Like I've got some of these right here, and you can't really see it, but like I don't have the thinnest waist. Um, I'm generally fine with that. I kind of like love my body, and I think I also should. There's nothing unhealthy about my body. There is nothing that a doctor would be concerned about, nothing like that. But I do have a personal history of disordered eating, and while I don't want to go into specifics, um, I have battled and am still battling forms of anorexia. While I have never been like incredibly anorexic or something like that, the thoughts still cross my mind. I have gone like over 48 hours without eating, and the only thing I felt was pride, and I am very much against that. I think it is really unhelpful to our society to have these like expectations on mostly women that we should be perfect and everything like that. But that brings us to our second point, which is what is body positivity even? So, body positivity is a movement focused on loving your own body no matter what. And to that, I want to add that beauty has no size, beauty has no shape, beauty has no bodily normality. Like, you don't have to have two functioning arms to be beautiful, you don't have to have two functioning legs to be beautiful. My computer just decided to comment on this. I think my computer agrees with me. Um, Beauty has no skin color, beauty has no hair color or texture, beauty has no gender, and beauty has no age. No matter what the current world says, body positivity is about loving yourself no matter who you are, no matter what your body may be, because for most of those factors, there is literally nothing you can do to change it, so you might as well just embrace it. Roll with what you got. But that brings us to the next point, which is, why do we even need body positivity in the first place? It's today's beauty ideals, which is like slim, defined, snatched, youthful, tight and glowy skin, and that is really hurting a lot of women, mostly. Also men have different body like beauty standards, and everyone in between also. um but mostly women are expected to be slim but still an hourglass shape, which is kind of not really achievable without like fully like surgeries and things like that. Their faces are expected to be defined and like snatched, which is like when your skin is pulled up like this way, kind of, which is not a natural thing. It's not really something that can be achieved without surgeries. And on that note, you may have noticed that I'm wearing makeup. And that is obviously part of the beauty ideals that women are expected to wear makeup. And I've got like a full face of makeup on. But I'm also not like promoting this like idea of being snatched. Like you can see I didn't contour anything like here, anything like that. Um, I just think that like makeup can be like an art form, and I want to see it as an art form, and I want to accept it as an art form and not as something I need. If I am not in the mood to do makeup, I am just not doing makeup. I go to school with like my normal face because that's what I've got. It's natural. Why should I be like shamed for something that is natural? And yes, I've got some acne. I've got some right here. Doesn't really show up on camera, but I definitely do got some. I also have herpes right now over here, which is not the best. But it's something completely natural. And you might be thinking, oh, but like I don't fit the beauty standard. And that is fine. In fact, you might not be ugly per se. You might just have been born in the wrong era. Because in the past, fuller, curvier women were all the rage. Like they were all the rage. Everyone wanted to be full, everyone wanted to be curvy. Like chubby curvy. Like that was in. And depending on where you were, more muscular women were in. And it's also culture dependent. None of these are set in stone. Even if it feels like they are, they really aren't set in stone. And people might try to convince you that they are these like rules of like nature and the universe, but they really aren't. And these beauty standards are and have always sadly been damaging to a lot of women, and that's not our fault. That's more of a societal issue, and these beauty standards have mostly been dictated by men and what they wanted from women. And we have to change that. We really have to change that. That is what body positivity as a movement is about. But then also against the other extreme, that you can be just like 200 kilograms and no one can tell you to lose weight. I am gonna be a bit controversial over here and say that while there is nothing morally wrong with being overweight, it is damaging to your health. That is the sad reality of it. And that is not something to be ashamed of. That is not something to feel bad about. It's just something to like think of as a health issue. You also like don't shame people for getting cancer. You don't shame people for getting, I know, arthritis. Why would you shame people for being overweight? It's just not a health issue. And being overweight is linked to a bunch of problems, including but not limited to heart issues, joint issues, damage to various internal organs, and even diabetes. And in the current society, there's not only physical health issues that can come with being overweight, there's also mental ones, such as self-loathing from being shamed for it. None of these mental aspects of it are purely from the being overweight. It's more of a being overweight and then being shamed for it and being treated differently because you're overweight. So these include self-loathing, body dysmorphia, where you develop kind of like an unhealthy image of yourself, and you like hate your body and don't really see it realistically, and you just think like no matter what you look like, no matter what you have on, no matter how much makeup you put on, you still feel so ugly and like you are so ugly you're not even deserving of love. Once again, I have sadly personal experience with body dysmorphia. I probably have body dysmorphia. I have days where I feel like a complete whale, and I just feel like I am the fattest person alive. And there are days where I feel like I'm too thin and I'm made of purely bones and skin. And none of those are correct, but the feeling still won't subside. This being bullied for being overweight is also linked to depression, that is linked to self-harm and suicidal tendencies. Um, these are not to be taken lightly. They are very serious issues that should be addressed by licensed professionals, mainly therapists and psychiatrists. Therapists are the ones that like talk to you about your feelings, and psychiatrists are the ones that are like the doctors that can like give you medicine. And also bringing us to our next point, eating disorders. Eating disorders, some of the eating disorders that are relevant here are anorexia, bulimia. I think we pretty much all know what those are, but anorexia is when you like want to be thin and you don't eat, so you get thinner. Bulimia is when you eat loads and then you throw up to not like ingest the calories of it. And we have orthorexia. Now, orthorexia, while any person of any gender can have any of these eating disorders, orthorexia is seen more commonly with male people. It is where you develop a sick obsession with eating healthy to the point where it's paradoxically not healthy. It consumes your entire life, and you miss out on social events, you miss out on a lot of things just because the food is not healthy. And that can be just as damaging as anorexia or bulimia. And I have mentioned in the beginning that I have experience with kind of somewhat anorexia. I wouldn't necessarily call it like the full anorexia because it's really not that. But I probably, because I'm not diagnosed, have an eating disorder called ARFID, avoidance/restrictive food intake disorder. It is an eating disorder when you cannot really eat loads, and when you do eat, it is only of certain types of foods, and everything that is outside of that cannot be ingested, and it feels like you cannot push it down your throat. My computer has just died that I had like my entire script on. Alright, we're back. Excuse me. So where were we? Oh yes, ORFID. It is an eating disorder where you can't eat loads, and even if you do eat, you only eat certain foods. And it is mainly characterized by not eating much but not being anorexia, mainly because it is not triggered by body dysmorphia like anorexia is. And on the note of anorexia, a lot of people have this image in their head of an anorexic person being very thin and very frail and like all their bones are hanging out basically. But you don't have to be overtly thin to be anorexic. Like, even overweight people can be anorexic, which I want to emphasize because a lot of people who suffer from anorexia don't really get to seek help because they believe that they wouldn't fall under the category of anorexia because they are still overweight. But that is still anorexia, and that still requires mental health help. Blah. Um, Also, most eating disorders overlap with mental health issues such as self harm, as mentioned previously, because there is often a reckless disregard for the safety of oneself. It is really difficult to talk about generally because when you're like anorexic, that's the one that I have the most experience with. When you're anorexic, you just don't care about what you do to your body. You don't care about what happens to you. You don't care if you pass out in the middle of PE class. You just keep trying to lose weight and trying and trying and trying to just lose those kilograms, even if it means that you'll end up in the hospital. And even if you end up in the hospital, you still try and try to not get help because help seems like it's gonna take away the only thing that you have control over, which is an incredibly bad feeling. I have never gotten to that point, and I hope that I never will. But I do have experience with self-harm too, and so I can kind of see overlaps where others might miss them. And to bring this one to a conclusion, this was a very heavy video, and I apologize for that, but I just want to end on the note that body positivity is a movement of self-love, and even when the world tells us that we have to be thin to be beautiful, body positivity and generally we are there for each other, and we are there to tell each other that we are still beautiful. Even if we don't feel like it, we still are. And I obviously couldn't cover everything on this topic. I might make more videos about it. And there's wonderful people out there who have talked about this issue way better than I ever could. But to bring it to a close, I have one thing to ask of you, which is to love yourself, no matter how you are, no matter how you may look, because the way you are is perfect. Don't change. Thank you.